Stop everything for a moment. Forget what you know about World War II weapons. I want you to imagine a weapon so paradoxical, so brilliantly out of place, that its very existence seems like a mistake. A weapon born from desperation, engineered by genius, and ultimately killed by progress. This is not a story about a famous rifle or a celebrated tank. This is the story of a machine gun that fired pistol bullets. This is the story of the LAD light machine gun, the swan song of the TT cartridge. Stay with me until the end, because the final twist in this story will change how you see the entire evolution of Soviet firearms. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment. Your thoughts are what fuel these deep dives into history. The last gasp of an old cartridge. The year is 1943. The Eastern Front is a hellscape of steel and fire. The Battle of Kursk is raging, a colossal clash that will define the war in Europe. On one side, the German Wehrmacht with its Tigers and Panthers. On the other, the Red Army with its T-34 tanks, and a storm of lead from PPSh submachine guns and Degtyaryov machine guns. In this cauldron of destruction, an idea is born. An idea that seems both brilliant and insane. What if we create a light machine gun for a pistol cartridge? Yes, you heard that right. For the very same 7.62 by 25mm TT cartridge that snapped from your Tokarev pistol or drummed from your PPSh. This is not a story of success. This is a story of what if. It's the last, desperate breath of a cartridge that wanted to be something more. It's the story of a project that could have changed the battlefield, but was born at the wrong time. This is the story of the LAD light machine gun. And I promise, you've never heard anything quite like it. The cartridge that wanted to fly far, a historical paradox. To understand the LAD, we must first understand the cartridge that gave it life. We must travel back to the 1930s. The USSR, a young and ambitious state, is building the army of the future. And it needs a new, modern cartridge. In the summer of 1930, from June 25th to July 13th, history is being made at the scientific test range for small arms and mortar weapons. A commission of the best minds from the Scientific and Technical Committee of the Artillery Directorate gathers. They are like kids in a candy store, test-firing everything. Tokarev and Prylutsky pistols, legendary Mausers, Walthers, Parabellums, Brownings. Nearby, the staccato roar of submachine guns. Tokarev's designs, Thompson's, Bergman's. A fierce competition is underway between two cartridges. The Soviet 7.62 by 25mm TT, essentially a modified German 7.63mm Mauser, and the European favorite, the 9 by 19mm Parabellum. And what do you think? The commission, following all logic, concludes that the 9mm cartridge is more promising. It's heavier, has better stopping power. It seems like an open-end shut case. But then, human factor intervenes, the kind that shatters all logical constructs. A member of the commission, VP Saradin, voices his special opinion. And he doesn't just object, he looks to the future. He says, "Stop, comrades. What if we want to develop not just pistols, but also submachine guns? And what if this future submachine gun needs to engage targets not at 100 meters like now, but at 300 or even 500? And here, our humble 7.62mm TT cartridge shows its character. It's a sprinter. It has a phenomenally high muzzle velocity and a flat trajectory. At those very 300 to 500 meters, it would have an advantage over the 9mm ball, which loses velocity faster and begins to drop significantly. Saradin's argument proves stronger. Range 1. Ballistics 1. The dream of a future universal weapon 1. And this dream, like a ghost, would haunt the corridors of people's commissariats and design bureaus for many years. The war. 1943. The birth of a mad idea. Now, let's fast forward to 1943. War is not a proving ground test. It's mud, dust, frost, wear and tear, and, most importantly, the brutal economics of every gram of metal and every minute of labor. The PPSh is the great workhorse of the war, but it has flaws. The drum magazine is heavy, noisy to load, and unreliable. The box magazine is better, but its capacity is only 35 rounds. What if we create something in between? Not a submachine gun, and not a full-fledged light machine gun like the DP-27, which weighs almost 11 kilograms and uses the powerful, heavy 7.62x50 4 mmR rifle cartridge. And then the old 12-year-old idea resurfaces. Remember Sheridan and his special opinion? It turns out he was right. The TT cartridge really can fly far. So, what if we take this cheap, mass-produced cartridge and feed it from a belt? 150 rounds without reloading. That's the firepower of an entire squad concentrated in the hands of one man. The initiative comes from the top. On April 19, 1943, the chairman of the Technical Council of the People's Commissariat of Armaments, E. Saddle, writes a letter to the chairman of the Artillery Committee of the Red Army, V. Cockloff. The essence: let's formulate the tactical and technical requirements for such a wonder machine gun. And Cockloff does. By the end of April, the requirements are sent to all leading design bureaus. Work is in full swing. Everyone is involved. Famous gunsmiths and, imagine this, even designers from the NKVD and engineers from the Air Force Academy. This was an all-union brainstorming session. But as often happens, a brilliant thought is born not in a giant design bureau, but in the minds of enthusiasts on the ground. The three musketeers of the proving ground: Ludi, Dakin, and Afanasiev. Now, let's pause and talk about the people. Because behind any piece of hardware, there are human stories. In the city of Kovrov, at that very scientific test range where the fate of cartridges was once decided, 3 men worked. Engineer Captain Vasily Ludi, Engineer Major Vladimir Dakin, and Engineer Constructor Senior Sergeant Nikolai Afanasiev. Picture this: a senior sergeant and 2 officers. They are not desk theorists. They test other people's weapons every day, see their shortcomings, and know their weak points. And they decide, why not? We can make something better ourselves. They work on their own initiative after their main duties, drawing blueprints at night, doing calculations during lunch breaks. And they create a machine gun. They named it, using the first letters of their surnames, LDA. Ludi, Dakin, Afanasiev. But in history, thanks to the weapons historian Alexander Malimon, it would remain as LAD. And this name, LED, suits it perfectly. It has a ring of a folk song, something harmonious and well-ordered. LAD is not just an acronym. It also means harmony and order. On August 8, 1943, their brainchild is brought to the test range. What kind of beast was it? A technical marvel. The anatomy of the LAD. As someone who has deeply immersed himself in this topic, I can say the design of the LAD is the pinnacle of engineering thought. This is not just an enlarged PPSh. This is a qualitatively new weapon. The main problem the 3 designers had to solve was feeding. The belt. The TT cartridge was not designed for direct feeding from a belt. Its case has a pronounced conical shape. To rip it from the belt link and ram it into the chamber requires enormous energy. A simple blowback system, like in the PPSh, where the barrel is stationary and a heavy bolt simply recoils backward, is no longer sufficient. More force is needed. And here comes the genius solution. Ludi, Dakin, and Afanasiev create a hybrid system. Imagine a blowback bolt. Yes, it exists, but it's not a simple one. It consists of 2 parts. The total weight is a whopping 650 grams. That's a lot for a pistol cartridge, but it's necessary for working with the belt. Gas operation. And this is the fantastic part. They add a gas piston to the design, like in the Kalashnikov assault rifle. Propellant gases are diverted into a chamber under the barrel and push a piston, which, with its impact, helps the bolt begin its rearward movement. It's like giving the bolt a kick for good measure. This scheme had previously been used only in Shpaghin's heavy machine gun. Why all this? For one thing, flawlessly reliable feeding of cartridges from a 150-round cloth or metal belt. The feed mechanism was mounted in the receiver cover and was incredibly elegant, with a curved lever that converted the bolt's movement into the advancement of the belt. And now, a detail I found in Malaman's memoirs that simply amazed me. He writes that the bolt in the LAD moved with unusual ease. This was achieved through a clever guide system. The bolt slid on just 2 pairs of tiny protrusions, wings, only 1.5 centimeters long. It's like skating on perfect ice. This scheme reduced friction and wear and ensured phenomenal reliability under dirty conditions. The machine gun had a thick, quick-change barrel with a muzzle brake to reduce recoil, bipod, and a wooden stock that housed a powerful recoil spring. The weight was 5.56 kilograms. For a light machine gun, a featherweight. For comparison, the DP-27 weighed about 11.5 kilograms. A difference of more than 2 times. Trial by fire. The LAD versus the system. And then the day of reckoning came. The machine gun began its tests. And here it showed its true colors. Accuracy. At ranges of 100 and 300 meters, the LAD showed results practically on par with the legendary Degtyaryov light machine gun, DP. But the testers noted a key detail. The LAD was incredibly calm when firing in bursts. It didn't jump or pull the barrel off target. The target remained in sight. This was a consequence of good balance and the muzzle brake. Reliability. It was tortured in every way, covered in sand and dust, soaked in swamp muck. The result? Only 5 stoppages in 1,750 rounds. In wartime conditions, this is a phenomenal indicator. Firepower. And this is the most impressive test. They set up full-size silhouettes at ranges from 75 to 200 meters. On one side, the LAD. On the other, the PPSh. The LAD fired all its 600 rounds, 4 belts of 150, in 2 minutes with 1 stoppage and hit the targets 26.8% of the time. The PPSh for the same 600 rounds, that's 16 magazines, took 20 minutes and 45 seconds, including time for magazine changes and reloading, and achieved a result of only 18.7%. Just think about that. The LAD created a 10-fold higher rate of fire and was more accurate. This isn't just an improvement. It's a breakthrough. But the highest praise came from a man whose word in the world of weapons meant more than any general's order. The great Vasily Alexeyevich Degtyaryov himself, the creator of the DP, saw the LAD at the range. And he didn't just nod approvingly. He, according to recollections, praised the design. He, a master of simple and reliable solutions, was impressed by the technical refinements, the stamped receiver, the lever-type belt feed mechanism, the layout. He personally praised the authors. It's like Leonardo da Vinci praising a painting by a young artist. It seemed like a done deal. Success. The machine gun must be adopted. But no, the verdict. Why the LAD never went into production. And now comes the saddest part of our story. The moment when cold calculation and strategic vision for the future outweigh immediate tactical success. While the 3 enthusiasts were perfecting their machine gun, deep within other design bureaus, work was already in full swing on a new cartridge. Not a pistol cartridge and not a rifle cartridge. An intermediate one. One that would be more powerful than a pistol round, but lighter and more compact than a rifle round. This was the cartridge of the 1943 model, the future 7.62 by 39 millimeters, the cartridge of the legendary AK-47 and SKS. And so, the meeting of the Artillery Committee on October 20th, 1943. The verdict is delivered. I quote verbatim, "The manufacture of a production batch of submachine guns with belt feed as not fully meeting modern requirements is considered inadvisable." The reason? It was clearly stated in the range report. Due to the low power of the existing 7.62 by 25 millimeters TT pistol cartridge, further development of this type of weapon is inadvisable. The paradox. The very same 300 to 500 meters that had been the TT cartridge's trump card back in 1930 were now its death sentence. Yes, the LAD could hit at 300 meters, but the new intermediate cartridge promised effective fire at 400 to 500 meters, while having a much more powerful bullet. The LAD was the swan song of the old era, while the door to the new era was already opening. The unfulfilled legacy. Philosophical reflections, and a call to you. So is the LAD needed? It's a philosophical question, as they say. On one hand, yes. At that specific moment, in 1943 and early 1944, it could have been a terrifying weapon in close combat during urban assaults and trench warfare. On the other, the country was betting on the future, and that future belonged to the Cartridge of the 1943 model. But the LAD did not die without a trace. Its DNA spread to other projects. The developments in belt feeding, hybrid automation, and stamping were all studied and, according to some sources, taken into account when creating the RPD-44 light machine gun, which was designed for that very new intermediate cartridge. The story of the LAD is a story about how brilliant ideas sometimes come a little too early or a little too late. It's a story about how three talented people, without prior arrangement, following their hearts, created something amazing. It's a monument to engineering thought left in a single prototype. So what do you think? Should they have launched the LAD into series production, even if just for a year or two? Or was the Artillery Committee's decision the only right one? Do you think this machine gun could have changed infantry tactics in the late war? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's argue. Let's discuss. This topic is worth it. And of course, if you, like me, were captivated by this story of forgotten weapon and unfulfilled hopes, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Ahead of us are stories of other legendary and crazy projects you may never have heard of. Stay tuned.